Oh, let's just get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we are. It is Saturday, 11 o'clock. And here we are to Star Trek New Worlds. Hi, my name's Tony, and if it is your first time here, first-time viewer here on the live stream, then thank you for joining us here live. If you're catching us on the replay, then thank you for taking the time. If you're wondering what in the world is this thing, Star Trek New Worlds, it is a turn-based strategy game that we play here online with you, live on YouTube and Twitch and Facebook Live. It is a game that we play using the rule set of Federation Empire as published by the Amarillo Design Bureau. It is shown to you through the magic of Vassal. And yeah, it's all things Star Trek fun and turn-based strategy, and we're doing that here with you today. Interesting for today's episode, this will be a slightly different episode, if only because our turn is not complete. Because we are in the midst of a massive war galactic-wide with the North, the South, the Klingons, the Romulans, the Carnarvon, the Gorn. So many battles going on so quickly. Even in the first round of combat, or the first phase of turns, there was over 10 battles that were submitted. And what does that all mean? Well, as this is a turn-based strategy game, and it's all under the auspices of our GM managing and processing all these battles and turns, it's a bit of an administrative burden. So what does all that mean? We are in the midst of our turn. The turn is not complete. I will show you a map here in a moment that has some of the battles still to be resolved. But we're going to talk about what has been sorted out already, and today's topic of choice will be the strategy and tactics behind the current offensive that is currently being engaged with from the Romulans against the Klingons, and what may be the changing circumstances and strategies to be employed going forward. As per the thumbnail, here comes the boom as the Klingons potentially turn the tide. And instead of it being, from the Klingons' perspective, a flood, or rather the ebb, it is now the flood. And so the Klingons are going to maybe flood across the border. We'll talk about that as far as strategies and tactics and what that all looks like. Before I do that, though, let's get real quick into the chitter chat and talk about Who is in the zoo here? We've got Bill and Paul. Eugene, it is starting. The update begins. How many Klingon bases will Romulans destroy? How many Romulan bases will fall to Carnarvon and Klingon forces? Will the battleship come to the rescue? Will the Commodore, we have some stories about the Commodore, save the day by turning the advancing tides? Will the Juggies respond? Will the Gorns enter the fray? Will Big Red, both of them, continue to sit on the sidelines? Who knows? Who knows? Oh, yes. So You Can't Be Petty is here in the house. Of course, Eugene, our number one press agent, public affairs officer, marketeer extraordinaire. The top of the show update means that this week's wait is not over. Cliffs are still being hung from. Indeed they are. Indeed they are. Okay. Let's pop that back into the chitter chat. Let's roll into what we have so far when it comes to the galactic news. Here we go. Chofak attack. Once again, the devastated world of Chofak has changed hands. Gorn fleets swarmed the tiny world, pushing Carnarvon fleets out of the Lyran Commonwealth for the time being. We attempted to get the opinion of the citizens on the street of Chofak, but there weren't any streets left, and not too many citizens. What is black and white and red all over? Oh, all across the boundaries between the Klingon and Romulan empires, war has broken out in a series of lightning strikes, and the Romulan Navy performed let's try that again. Rewind. In a series of lightning strikes, the Romulan Navy performed time-on-target attacks against numerous bases, planets, and logistics points. The planets of Nepal and V were bombarded and captured, though they were recaptured only a few weeks later. In response, several Romulan bases were attacked and destroyed close to the galactic center. We here at Galaxy Today are predicting that this is just the beginning of a long and terrible war between these two great powers. The Klingon Empire is an economic juggernaut, pardon the reference, that spans a massive portion of the galaxy. Can the Romulan David successfully take on the Klingon Goliath? Stay tuned and find out. Predator or puppet? As Romulan warships pour across the Klingon border into the former free trade zone, there are whispers in the halls of power that something is subtly wrong. First, there was the diplomatic corps who seemed to be absorbed into the Juggernaut machine network. Then rumors of high Romulan officials going on holiday and coming back subtly changed. In sensitive Senate meetings, it is said that the metal detectors have been shut off so that the senators can enter without their assimilation being revealed. Were the Romulans uniquely vulnerable to the silicon siren song of the machines? Perhaps proximity or genetic weakness? Whatever the case, there is now serious doubt that the Romulan government is still ruled by the will of the people, rather than the distant scheming sprockets at the center of Juggernaut space. Taking dogs for a walk. The Carnarvon intrusion into Romulan space is growing. With several resource points captured and a base under construction, have the wolves beaten down the front door for good? Will they huff and puff and blow the Romulan house down? The fate of the Empire hangs in the balance! And that is your galactic news for now. Too exciting. Yes, there's a lot of delighting and exciting things going on. And as I said, I will show you the map here in but a moment. But keep in mind that this is an incomplete map. There are many aspects of the map that are resolved and finished. However, there are a few minor, shall we say, details that are not finely tuned or finished. So we will get to that in a momento. Save the day. Oh, hold on. That was previous commentary from Eugene. Let me dive in with a quick little coffee sip and quickly give you a tour of our screen if you haven't already seen this before. You will notice between me and the chat there is a QR code. You can take your phone and Scan that, and it will take you to that link over there in the corner, also found in the chat. If you are so inclined and you like what we do here, then you can send us a quick coffee disruptor our way. You will see an alert to scroll up the screen with a disruptor sound effect, and that will let you know that your coffee has been received. There are various tiers at coffees. You can join us on our Discord at the top tier and partake in our witty banter and colorful commentary if you so wish. Of course, if that's not up your speed, but you just like what we do here, then you can be like Paul Burton down there below and hit that subscribe button and or the thumbs up and just let us know that you like what we do, you want to participate and be part of our community, and you want to be here every Saturday to let yourself know what the latest and greatest news is in the world of Star Trek New Worlds. But, whoa, speaking of which, the Juggernauts have just fired a massive caffeination disruption our way. Cheers to the sprockets, big ears. And that goes to our other point. You will notice that there is now a green section to the bar down below. We have 3 coffees as our goal. So as we march our way towards the other side of the screen, you will see that bar grow as the coffees get fired. So 3 disruptor fires, and we will complete our green screen, so to speak. But without further ado, let's dive into the map. It's exciting. So normally we do fleet cap and economic points. Let's try that again. We talk about the money and we talk about the guns, but we can't really do that today because we're not complete, so to speak. So what I will show you here, and this is something that you can let me know in the chat if this is useful for you. Again, this is a map in progress, and there are a couple of things that have not been completed and or are ongoing. So let me show you what's on the screen right now. You will notice that there obviously are ships in various places, and the map is dynamic and moving, but see these battle hexes. These are a couple of key battles that are occurring right now, and there's a couple more up top here. So those battles are still to be resolved. We won't go into those in any particular detail, but we can discuss them in our next episode. When will that next episode be? I don't want to make any promises for the weekend, but we can see about, potentially popping up a sort of impromptu episode to be able to talk about the resolution of the map and where we're at. Be on the lookout for that. And if you want notifications about when that episode will come out above and beyond our normal schedule, make sure you've got the bell notification clicked on YouTube, because that will let you know. But as you can see here, there's a couple battles that need to be resolved, and we'll talk about the strategy here in just a moment. But there is an interesting shift that has just occurred. Let's slide over, and we were just talking about how the dogs are going for a walk, breaking down the door of the Romulan Empire. You can see here we have a base under construction with both Diamond and Home Fleet from the Carnivons on the quote-unquote wrong side of the wormhole. A couple of frigates here have taken some resources, and you can see the scatter of Romulan ships, all crippled and damaged, spread around across their empire, looking for safe harbor to repair. We also have up here, we can see that there is a monumental Gorn fleet sitting here on this medium planet with a YDK. So we can see we've got not only a collection of at least 10, hold on, there we are. So 10, 11, 12 M-era destroyers. M-era destroyers being a 3-attack, 4-defense ship. And with them, they have 2 cruisers, and it looks like a survey vessel, a Y-era survey ship. Doesn't really have any significant combat capability. A converted ISC light cruiser with the 4.6, a converted Lollipop or Y-era destroyer from the Federation, and that's all that's there. Now, granted, that's not nothing. That's certainly something. And on this wormhole here, I was doing the math just a little while ago, is about 35 ships sitting here on this wormhole. That wormhole, of course, goes to the Balkans, where the Klingons are sitting. I'll show you that in a moment. But you can see here that the Gorn have positioned themselves quite significantly on the border here, looking to potentially cross the line and get involved with what's going on with the Carnivon. Let's take a quick look at what the Carnivons have here, keeping in mind that this may be still an incomplete ship count of what's here. We've got, oh, that was Emerald Fleet, my mistake. So we've got Home and Diamond. Those are the two that we're looking at. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, Chameleon. Here we go. Diamante. There we are. Diamond Fleet and Home. Home Fleet. Boom. Okay. So we can see here we've got quite a collection of ships, and not insignificant. We have 9 drone bombardment cruisers plus 2 more over in this other fleet. So a total of 11 drone bombardment cruisers, 2 YCCs, a total of 4 dreadnoughts, an M-era cruiser, 2 Y-era cruisers, 2 Y-era light cruisers, a Y-era destroyer, and an additional 5 drone bombardment destroyers. Why are these drone bombardment ships so potent? Well, the Carnivon have based on their sort of fleet composition, they have this really interesting combination of ships. They have the N on their counter. The N is a heel nipper. Heel nipper is, for all intents and purposes, a 1-point directed damage weapon, kind of like a Mauler. Mauler being a directed damage weapon. And what it does, it allows you to take 1 point of damage and direct it against the target for every N that you have. So you need a minimum burr, I believe it's 6, a minimum burr of 6 to be able to use the heel nipper. And once you've sort of met the criteria, for every N you have in the battle formation, and for example, if you had 10 ships in your battle formation, you could have 10 Ns, and you could direct damage 1-to-1 on a particular ship. I don't believe it works in formation bonus, but if you did, just like with a Mauler, it would be 2-to-1. And what that allows you to do is just do direct damage on any particular target, and of course, resolve damage normally, anything above that number of Ns. So let's say, again, in our example, if you had 10 Ns, then you could have 10 directed damage against a specific target. It is a very potent weapon, and whereas a Mauler has to make a roll for it being crippled due to shock damage, basically the Mauler is such a big and powerful, massive cannon, every time that it fires its main weapon, there's a chance that the whole ship gets crippled. Not the case with the heel nipper. The heel nipper is a much less significant but still impactful weapon that allows you to be able to do that. So that's one thing that they have in their composition of their fleet. The second is the fact they have all these drone bombardment ships. You will notice on the counter here, there is a 2 in a bracket. That is how many drone bombardment factors that they can throw into a battle. Now, in our game, we have tiers of technology. And depending on the tier of technology that has been researched for drone technology, there's a certain speed of missile. A drone is a missile, so a certain speed of missile that you need to reach before you can target ships versus target static targets like a base. So assuming that the Carnivon have the right tech to be able to target ships and not just bases, then he can put as many as 3, and I'll pull up the battle mat here so you can see this. So this is, for example, a tool to be able to help us manage a battle. If you were playing this in real time, you would use this battle mat to resolve battles one at a time. But you'll notice here in the back row, you have this sort of support line with a box for the scout, 3 boxes for drone bombardment ships, a rescue tug, a hospital ship, and carriers, or PFTs. So there are 3 spots or slots for drones here, which means they can add 6 damage to their total attack factor just by having ships there. And you can target those ships at 3-to-1 because they also get the formation bonus, but they're basically not exactly untouchable, but it's very difficult to target them. It does cost money for every drone that you use, and there's a price calculation for that. But assuming you have the funds, you can just launch missiles every battle round and just add to the total damage that you're doing. And because he's got so many drone bombardment ships, even if one of those were somehow damaged or crippled, he can just swap them out. So yeah, not only does he have enough ships to fill a full battle line, and of course those Ns, those heel nippers that can be able to be part of that calculation, but in addition, he's got the drone bombardment as well. So when we do the whole sort of rainbow effect here, you've got some pretty potent and powerful capabilities when it comes to their fleet. Now, if you add that together with all the potential sort of heat that they'll take from the Gorn and the Romulans and everything else, yeah, okay, there's a lot going on there. But they are very competent and capable of causing all sorts of pain for whoever it is that's going to attack them. Not to mention, once they get that base up and running, which will happen in short order, they have an EW advantage as well. So there's a whole, like I say, there's a whole pot of goodness there that they're going to be able to unload on anybody who decides to attack them. And because it's just on the other side of their homeworld, that wormhole being on top of their homeworld, they can move ships at very, very quickly into that area of operation, and it'll be very difficult for anybody to get them off that spot, I think. So, very interesting spot. And keep in mind, the Romulan homeworld is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hexes away from this wormhole, which is pretty close. Not to mention the Gorn homeworld, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for the Carnivon, this is a great strategic point because it gives them relatively easy access to both the Gorn and the Romulans. Very, very exciting. But speaking of the Carnivon and the Gorn, let's roll up top to the Balkans, where we heard all sorts of exciting stuff going on. So a couple of key things to note here. Chofak, which is the planet that's right here, it used to be, I believe, a minor planet providing you 3 EP. I think it might have been started off as a minor. If not, it may be a developing planet, but at least now it's a colony, which I believe it's shrunk because of all the battles that have occurred. And you heard in the galactic news, not a lot of streets and not a lot of people on those streets. Well, this is why. So very, very interesting. We can see here we've got a whole collection of ships. And one thing in particular, the reserve counter. So the reserve counter is the use of reserve fleets in the sort of calculus for battle. Why are reserve fleets so important? Reserve fleets, so this is a turn-based strategy game. Every player progresses their turn in sequential order. That order is determined by your economy, and the lower economies, smaller your economy, the earlier you go in sequence or initiative. So if you have the smallest economy, you go first. If you have the biggest economy, you go last. And when you're in alliance with other factions, you pool your economy together to make that calculation. So for example, the 4 powers, by example, all 4 of those factions had some of the biggest economies in the game. So you put them all together, they go last, and they all go at the same time. And the 3 powers, for example, before them, before the conclusion of this turn, the 3 powers had a smaller economy collectively than the 4 powers, and so the Gorn, the Tholians, and the Romulans went first. So the reserve counter allows you to be able to move when it's not your turn. For example, if the Gorn had gone first and then the Carnivon go, and whereas we've talked about reaction movement, and reaction movement, there's a tutorial on it on this channel. If you haven't already seen it, check out the tutorial playlist below, and you can read about reaction movement. Now, reaction movement's great if you're doing 1 hex reaction or extend a reaction for 2 hexes. However, reserve movement allows you to be able to move using the full operational movement of the units in the reserve fleet. So what's the sequence of events? Basically, the player, so in this case, for example, let's say it's the Carnivon. It's the Carnivon's turn. The Gorn have already done their thing. They've had their turn. Their turn is over. Now it's the Carnivon turn. The Carnivon will move. They will complete their operational movement phase, meaning they'll move all their ships in all the different places, and they'll have started or have their units on hexes where there are battle hexes or battles to be resolved. Then reserve movement occurs. And as long as you're within the operational movement of that reserve fleet, so for example, if you're using an M era, they have 6 movement. A Y era fleet has 4 movement, and you can only move as far as the slowest ship in your fleet. Then you're able to move those ships from where they are to a potential battle hex. The constraint of how many ships you can move is based on the command factor of the biggest command factor ship in the fleet. So for example, if you had a command cruiser, which normally has a command factor of 9, you could move the command cruiser and 9 other ships, total of 10 ships, using reserve movement. So this reserve movement hex, or this reserve movement counter, is placed on a reserve fleet that is sort of assigned in advance. So I believe we can find Gorn reserves. You can see here. So the Gorn reserves are 2 light cruisers and 4 M-era destroyers. Now, light cruisers, I believe, have a command factor of 6, I think. So 1, 2, plus the 4 here, so that's a total of 6. Now, if your command factor is 6, that means you can control 6 ships above and beyond the ship in the command ship in question. So there could be a total of 7 ships if the command factor was 6. If it's 5, and it might be 5, then this is the total number of ships that can be in that reserve fleet. So that gives you an example of those are the ships that could then move in response to one of the other players moving during their turn, and then reserve movement will allow them to move that reserve fleet, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's what that reserve counter is for. It assigns a certain number of ships into a reserve fleet, and they can potentially move after the other player has moved. So interesting, very interesting. We can see here Chofak has Hammer and Mobile Fleet. Let's take a quick look at the named fleets for the Gorn. So we've got Hammer, which is two cruisers, a scout and prime team. And there is also Mobile Fleet, which is, you can see here, a cruiser, light cruiser, a scout. So a total of 3 cruisers, a light cruiser, 2 scouts, plus, what do we got here? So another cruiser, another light cruiser, another cruiser. Geez Louise. Counting these can be a challenge. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cruisers, 1, 2 light cruisers, 4, 5, 6 destroyers, a crippled destroyer, and 2 scouts and 2 prime teams. Whew, it's quite a collection. All right, and then of course here we've got Home Fleet sitting here on this resource. Gorn Home Fleet is, ooh, all right, let's put that there, just above my head. You've got a Dreadnought, 3 Y, these are all Y ships, with the exception of this destroyer. So 3 light cruisers, 3 command cruisers, a Dreadnought, a commando cruiser, and an M-era destroyer with 2 prime teams. In addition, you've got another 6 destroyers, M-era, sorry, 7 era, geez Louise, 7 M-era destroyers, and 2 tugs. Looks like they're going to be building a base. And they are building a base. Take away those ships. You can see there's a base under construction right here. So we got 2 bases, and then another base under construction there. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, and then we've got Emerald Fleet and Topaz on the other side. So let's take a look at Emerald and Topaz. Topaz, ooh, that's a lot of ships. And Emerald. So Emerald doesn't have a lot there, except for they have a DN and 2 M-era, or GWR, light cruisers, plus a Hydrogen DN. Then we've got a total of 6 cruisers, another 3 light cruisers, so a total of 5 light cruisers, 4 drone bombardment cruisers, a Y-era light cruiser, and a total of 10 frigates. So when you look at all of what's amassed right there on the border, these 2 Gorn and Carnarvon fleets, respectively, are very similar. Very similar. And then, of course, you've got these ships sort of in the back end here on this YDK. You've got a cruiser, a light cruiser, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 frigates, plus another light cruiser. So 2 light cruisers, a cruiser, 7 frigates, and then a bunch of cripple ships that could potentially move in as well. So quite a collection here of ships on either side, setting up for a pretty good hoedown going down here between the Gorn and the Carnarvon. Now, it's interesting because if I'm the Gorn, I'm winning. I think I'm winning because I am progressing forward. I'm continuing to build bases in behind me, and I'm advancing. Like, I'm doing a good job of advancing and covering my tail. And to be fair, they're winning. as far as taking territory, holding it, and progressively moving forward, they are without a doubt winning that game. The Carnivon, however, they're sort of splitting their energy and effort. So certainly they have a lot of ships there, and they can certainly make a fight of it against these two factions. But then, of course, we just talked about the foray into Romulan space and the tussle there. So there's a very interesting dynamic there as well. Very, very interesting. Now, this is all going on not in a bubble, right? There is stuff around it that's going on. So, for example, we've got the Remans right here, still sitting here with Triton Fleet. So Triton Fleet, as a reminder, oh my God, is, we'll put that right here. Okay. So we've got, again, 12 of these Maulers. Two, looks like M-era cruiser, three of them crippled. 6 KF4s, 7 K4Ms, which are like my E4M for the Klingons, and then a number of little other crippled ships here. So we've got a tug, an M-era tug, a KRT, a couple of crippled D4s, KD4s, crippled KF4s, a KE2 plus crippled, and 3 crippled cruisers, KRMs. So not an insignificant fleet, and certainly a fleet that could crush, kill, and destroy anything that it chooses to engage with. And there's quite a bit that it could decide to tussle with. And all of that, don't forget about the Lyrans. Everyone's playing in their sandbox, but the Lyrans are right there. And Lyran Home Fleet, which is, anytime, Tony, here we are. So Lyran Home Fleet right there. You can see Heavy Dreadnought, Y Command Cruiser, 2 Y Cruisers, 2 M-era light cruisers, 3 DDs, an M-era DD, and 5 M-era frigates and a commando destroyer. So interesting. And of course, they still have on their home world, or in their home hex, Lyran Capital, they've got 14 Y-era planetary ground bases, another 7, another 4, 2 YDKs, and a YBS that they're building. So they're fortifying their homeworld, making it harder for anybody to take it. Very interesting that this is sort of the progression that we're seeing here in and around the Lyran pocket, the Lyran Commonwealth. Very, very interesting. Okay. So again, these are sort of the tussles, the battles, the things that are going on. And because our turn sort of is in progress, let's just talk about, for the remainder of today, let's talk about the strategy that's going on between the Romulans and the Klingons. Let's warm up with what we were just talking about here, which is the Gorn strategy against the Carnivon. And let you think about it for a second. But we've basically seen a very effective execution by the Gorn of a creep, like grinding out and creeping forward strategy. If we take away their ships, of which there are many, you can see that there is a progressive advancement of ships and then strategic supply points. So we've got the base, planet or colony, another base, another base. So there is this steady progression into the hex, or into the Lyran Commonwealth. The one thing I will say about the way that this has been sort of progressing forward is because they're more than 2 hexes away, both up here and between the YDK and this base right here, they're outside of reaction range. So the extended reaction range goes up to 2 hexes. And so anything based on the YDK cannot support, by default, this base here. Same thing with this colony. The colony by itself doesn't have any ability to have extended reaction range, so it can't do that. You can make up for that, though, with scouts. If you don't move your scout during your movement turn, it can execute extended reaction range for ships based on the hex with that scout. So that's another thing to sort of hold in your pocket if that's what you want to do. But again, a slow and steady progression by the Gorn of advancing into the Lyran Commonwealth space. Very interesting. Now, we've seen some challenges from the Carnivon in advancing into this area. So initially, the biggest criticism was around supply and their ability to logistically support their attack. in combination with the speed at which they were advancing into this area. So the initial criticism was, move faster and get in there and get it done, because you had competition from the Gorn and the Remans. Now, maybe they could have been faster, but if they had been faster, would they have then been kicked off by the Gorn? Potentially. That would have been a potential sort of weakness for them if they had somehow taken the Lyran Commonwealth capital and then they were being pushed off by the Gorn as they were advancing. Potentially. As it is right now, what do we have? We have a collection of 2 YDKs, which is extremely good as far as their ability to repair and move forward. They have supply points, fixed supply points that allow them strategic movement and effective advancing of their ships, of which they also have many. So the difference here is that, from my analysis, my personal opinion, is that from a outcome perspective and measuring outcome, the Gorn are winning at this point. They are advancing. They are continuing to build out infrastructure as they advance, and they are sort of pushing, or at the very least holding the line when it comes to the Carnarvon trying to get into the Lyran Commonwealth. However, at this point, the Gorn are less, they don't have as much of an advantage as the Carnarvon have. The Carnarvon have, I would argue, better ships. They have better supply and repair capacity in the immediate area. They have a better ability to grind down and eliminate the Gorn. It's their execution that will be the critical factor. How well do they destroy what the Gorn have going on? Little things like these bases. How are they going to eliminate them or compromise them? There's a lot of interesting stuff here. I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how they advance. And of course, in this calculus, the Carnarvon are aligned with the ISC and the Reman at the end of this turn, and so arguably the Reman at any point can come into this fight and help out against the Gorn. Obviously, they haven't at this point, and there's a tension there along these lines, which of course extends to the Tholians as well with regards to the Klingon-Romulan conflict. We'll talk about that in a moment, but that is sort of what's going on here. So very, very interesting. I can see some chat going on there in the chat. We'll get to that in just a moment. All right, quick sip as we scroll down to the Klingon-Romulan front. Okay, so first of all, and I think I've said this before, but let's just be over the top with our accolades. The Romulans have performed exceptionally well. They have executed a strategy whereby they have, as was described in the Galaxy Today, they do time on target attacks, meaning they scatter their fleets into small task groups of 2, 3, 4, 5 ships, and they target specific undefended or vulnerable bases. And that's been the strategy that they've used, whereby they've been targeting bases and interesting. They've been targeting bases and moving them forward, moving their ships forward, I mean. And so with the targeting of these bases and destroying the infrastructure, they eliminate the Klingons' ability to supply and project supply forward against the Romulans. This was the exact same strategy that the Klingons used against the Carnarvon during that war, when they advanced so quickly across the border and took territory. So what we're seeing here is effectively the execution of a similar strategy, just with a sort of different dynamic opponent. Now, we will have to see what the results of these key battles are, because one of the advantages that the Romulans have is their ability to cloak and retreat, basically avoid battles that they don't want to fight. When you are engaged in a battle, ships of an opposing force enter your hex and a battle hex is created, like you can see here on the map. you have, from the Romulan perspective, you have 3 options. The first is you can withdraw up to half of your ships from the fight before battle. So you can withdraw before battle, but you have to leave, out of your 3 top command ships, you have to leave one of them behind. Like, one of them has to be behind to command the fleet. And you can only, you can at a maximum only remove half of your ships with leaving as many ships in the hex as there are opposing forces in that. So, for example, if I had 10 ships, if I'm the Romulans, I have 10 ships in that hex, and I'm the Klingons and I attack you with 2, I can withdraw initially half my ships, but I can also withdraw up to all my ships except for the 2 to match the 2 ships that you have as the Klingons in that hex. Think of it like pinning. When I move however many ships I move into attack, that is the minimum number of ships that you need to maintain, plus potentially, I'm not explaining this well. I do apologize. Let's try that again. I'm the Romulans. I have 10 ships. I'm the Klingons. I attack you with 20 ships. I'm the Romulans. I can withdraw up to 5, half of my 10 ships before battle. Boom, done. Now, instead of 20 ships, if I attacked you with 2 ships, and I'm the Romulans, again with 10, I can withdraw 8 ships, initially half, but I can leave as little as 2 ships in that hex because you're only attacking me with 2. Does that make sense? So take the total number of ships that you have in the hex, divide that in half, and then if there's a difference between that half and the number of ships attacking you, then you can go down to the number of ships attacking you and withdraw the rest of those ships. Keeping in mind, you need to keep one of your top 3 command ship candidates in the hex to command the defense. Make sense? Okay. So the Romulans have another trick up their sleeve at this point. They can cloak withdraw. So based on their cloaking technology, of which there are 4 different tiers, there's a table that we roll in sort of numbers around, a calculation around whether they are successful on a withdraw or not. They can cloak withdraw. And basically it's about a 60% chance. They have a 60% chance success rate on being able to cloak withdraw from a combat. Pretty good chances. There are some things that go into that, some factors that influence that roll, but let's just say it's about a 60% chance. So they, after withdrawing or reducing the total number of ships down to half, out of those ships, they can then roll and see how many of those ships they can withdraw. Let's say on average, they get another half of those ships out. So I only got a quarter of the ships that were initially in that hex remaining in the fight. And then I can fight them. But then, of course, they can retreat and take minimal damage in the process. So the challenge when fighting the Romulans is nailing them down to decisive battles. And that's always the biggest challenge and problem when fighting the Romulans. Nailing them down to decisive battles. And that has been the sort of second piece or ingredient to the success of their attacks. Because they've had initiative, they look at the map, they can see exactly where all my ships are, and they can attack. When I write my contingency orders, because their ships will move when it's my turn to attack, because again, the Romulans will go first, they will complete all their movement and attack, then it's my turn. So because what I look at to base on my decisions about what I'm going to do, how I'm going to attack, and so on, there's a lot more ambiguity, a lot more uncertainty. I can't be as precise, like the time on target attacks, I can't be as precise with that as the Romulans are being when they attack. So I have to be much more vague in my instructions, giving intent about what it is I would like to accomplish, and then give some rough guidelines on the limits of how that is to be accomplished, meaning move X number of ships or have a certain sort of advantage in a fight or what have you. So it makes it a challenging experience from the defensive position when you don't have initiative and you're fighting an opponent like the Romulans. When they have initiative, they have this cloaking ability that allows them to basically decide when they want to fight, and trying to nail them down is very, very challenging. So strategically, and their tactical employment of these tactics, it makes it really hard to fight them. In the sense of they get to choose where and when to fight me, and I have less control of when and where I fight them. So, how do you win a fight like that? Well, you win that by nailing down the opponent in decisive battles. All right, I'm going to jump into the chat here in a second. I can see the chat is going. Let's see, pop out chat. Boom. Oh, there's so much chat. Okay, so in short, what we're going to see a resolution of some key battles here, but something significant has changed. During this turn, which is a spring turn, or the turn was a spring turn, the Klingons left the Four Powers Alliance. And leaving the Four Powers Alliance means that the calculus for initiative is changed. And that means that the Klingons will have initiative for the next 2 turns, at the very least. And that will change how the Romulans fight. So we talked about the Romulans' ability to withdraw before combat and their cloaking withdraw. So there's 2 things that allow them, or 2 constraints that I can impose that will eliminate their ability to use cloak withdraw. The first is supply. If they're not in supply, they can't cloak withdraw. They can't use any of their special abilities if they don't have supply. So how do I do that? We'll talk about that in a sec. And then the second thing is if they're crippled. If their ships are crippled, they can't use their special abilities, or at least in many cases, they can't use their special abilities. You'll note on the map there'll be, for example, there'll be a base that has a diamond on it, which is an indication of special sensors and scout functions. And when it's crippled, the diamond is still there. And there are some ships and units that still have their scout functionality basically when they're crippled. But when it comes to cloaking ability and Romulan ships, they lose that cloaking ability when they are crippled. So how do we ensure that we get them when we want to get them? We fight them. We fight them when they're crippled or out of supply. That's the first thing. And we ensure that they that whatever battles we fight with them, we have overwhelming force. The second piece to that is that we push, as the Klingons, I have to push them to defend key pillars of strength or key spots that they need to defend. And one of the things that the Klingons have been slowly working away at over the course of the past couple of turns is slowly peppering away at their supply network. Now, I can't reach out and destroy them because of the Romulans' very effective approach at destroying my base network, but I've been nibbling away at their supply network as well. And I think you'll find over the next couple turns, the results or the rewards of that will pay off substantially. The thumbnail for this video is "Here comes the boom." And that's because, or the rationale behind that is that up until now, up until now, the Romulans have had the initiative, they have had the momentum, they have had sort of all the benefits. I'm hoping, knock on wood, that there are a couple of key tactics and strategies that I will be employing over the next series of turns that will pay off. I don't want to overly explain them, understandably, but nonetheless, there are a couple of strategies that I'm going to employ, and hopefully that will substantially change how well this does or doesn't work. I will pleasantly be reporting back to you, hopefully, the results of those tactics over the next couple of turns, but we'll see. The advantage that the Klingons have in this battle is they are economically bigger and they have more cushion to absorb. However, the Romulans have done a very good job of slowly nibbling away and eliminating my supply to a lot of my resources. That's a huge pain in the butt. However, I have a lot of cushion to absorb that with. And as a result, I have been outproducing the Romulans in ships. I have been, my particular ships and ship designs are more combat effective than theirs as far as total attack and defense factors. And so there is, by nature, an advantage that I have. However, the Romulans have a really good spread of ships. Their frigates are basically like cruisers. They are, the SNB that they have is a really, really, really good ship, and it kicks butt. They have a lot of them. I have more ships than they do, but that's going to change most likely over time. So we'll just see how this goes. There's a lot of moving pieces and players. The Klingons are definitely, without a doubt, on the back foot, and I can't praise the Romulan player Dave enough about how well he has done this. It has been an absolutely fantastic execution of an attack against against the Klingons. He's just been absolutely fantastic at doing it. I'm not sure why, but YouTube just decided to sign me out all of a sudden. Always wonderful. So I'm trying to jump back into the dashboard I have here for the stream. Pardon me as I do this. It's been a very interesting exchange. I completely underestimated and was overconfident when it came to the Romulans and their sort of their position, their fleet strength, and all this kind of stuff. And my own sort of it was my own weaknesses that left me open to this. And the Romulan player did an excellent job of setting up, lulling me into a false sense of security, setting up this execution, and just doing a fantastic job at being able to do what they've done against me. So nothing but props and praise for Dave. I can only hope that my adaptation to his very successful strategy will be equally successful, and that I will be able to demonstrate that I've still got some game in this game, so to speak. So we'll see how that goes. I've been really enjoying the war and the combat. It's been particularly challenging that the Gorn jumped me in this process. I mean, I suppose I should have expected it, but the Gorn, the Gorn have certainly done their part in making this an exciting and a challenging experience from a strategic level. I'm sure that there's another shoe to drop at some point. The Tholians, for example, I'm just waiting for them to get involved, and when they do get involved, hopefully I've got a contingency plan in place for that. We'll see. But as it is right now, if nothing else changes and it's just the Gorn and the Romulans fighting and the Carnivons fighting the Gorn and me fighting the Roms, Dave's doing a really good job. The Romulans are doing a really good job, as you might have seen. And it's a lot of fun. And I'm, with all due respect to how confident I think I am, I'm getting my ass handed to me. So I'm really, really enjoying it. So with all that said, let's jump in the chat real quick because there's a lot of it, and let's talk about what is going on. Okay, let's expand this chat box. Whoop. All right. So Eugene says, spring is springing here. Temps have returned to the 80s. Flower and worse. Tree sects all around the air, causing reactions to noses all about. What is the status of blooming in your empires? Well, that is certainly a very interesting way to describe spring. Okay. I don't know how to answer that, Eugene, to be fair. I've still got rain and snow where I am, so there's no fornication in the foliage, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. The trees are not engaging in hanky panky where I am just yet, but we'll see. Are the Carnivon returning the Romulan R&D team? Are they planning to escort it all the way to Romulus, perhaps picking up their own team? Who knows? That would be interesting. I mean, certainly the Romulans engaged in all their mutually beneficial R&D stuff have torpedoed that. That is for sure. We'll see how that goes. What else we got here? You violated our tree. Yeah. Okay. Remind me, the back row where the support ships go in the battle map are in addition to the command rating of the lead ship, right? Excuse me. I don't know why my throat is not loving me today. Yes. So everything in the command row, or sorry, in that support row, doesn't count against your command rating. Basically, as we look at the battle map, you've got up to 10 hexes available for you, and then there's the command ship. And all those 10 hexes can be filled up by ships in the battle line. Those are the ships that are under the command factor. Everything else in the support line, scouts, rescue tug, drone bombardment, carriers, and pseudo fighters, those are all, outside of the command limit. So they can fill up those boxes, but they don't count against your command limit. What else we got here? Can a tug with a battle pod still build or repair a YBS and YDK? So the way that tugs work, is that there are tug missions in the game. Missions are assigned at the beginning of your turn, before all the building and stuff goes on. One of the tug missions is to build a base, by example. So construction would be one of those tug missions. You can assign pods to a tug, but pods are usually associated with a particular mission. So for example, you would assign a repair pod, if you had a repair pod, to a tug if it was going to conduct a repair mission with ships. In the Klingon case, I assign battle pods to some of my tugs because I'm employing them as combat capable platforms and so on. If I'm going to use that tug for building a base, extending supply and things like that, then generally speaking, those pods don't get distributed. The way that they describe it sort of in the game is that the pods reside within your supply network. When a ship is at the beginning of every turn, the logistics wizards will send pods to the various tugs depending on their mission, and then enable them to be able to do the stuff that they need to do: repair pods, battle pods, so on and so forth. But those get redistributed at the beginning of every turn. So you might have ships with pods. They can, if it's a tug, it can swap out those pods no matter where it is, as long as it's within your supply network. If you're in an isolated supply network, you can still do the same thing, but you have to base it off of an isolated supply network. And they can only operate within that isolated supply grid. So basically, pods and the missions that tugs perform all get assigned at the very beginning of the turn, which is important because you couldn't have a tug building a base and then get attacked and have to go into battle and then all of a sudden assign it battle pods. It doesn't work that way, if that makes sense. Where we go. So Daniel chiming in here says, yes, those extra slots don't count against the command limit. A tug must be assigned a mission at the start of each turn. A tug assigned the battle pod mission can't do construction. See? Some missions, like construction or supply, can be done by a tug all by itself. Other missions, like battle tug or repair tug, require the proper type of pod to be attached to the tug. Eugene, do you see any dangers from the remaining three powers? Carnies seem distracted to be able to regain former Carney space, but perhaps the Icing and Riemann will find some Klingon morsel extra tasty worries, ? Well. So this game is, shall we say, a game of predators. And whenever you see a top tier predator injured wounded, it is vulnerable to be attacked by other predators in the environment. So I'm not saying like lions attacking lions. I'm thinking like, hyenas attacking an injured lion or a sick lion or things like that. Just like lions, cheetahs, and whatever it is on the savannah will sort of target young, infirmed, or injured, impalas and zebras and whatever. So all that to say, there is certainly the possibility that any one of my former allies could attack me, without a doubt. Do I think that's going to happen? It depends on where and how the return on investment fits into the calculation. I don't see the IC doing that because there's nothing that I have that's close to the IC that really sort of tips the balance for them. If they were to attack me in some way, shape, or form, the reward for that risk that they're incurring isn't really there. The Remans, on the other hand, they could certainly do it. The Remans have at least one shared border with me, and they could push down and sort of take territory from me. The problem with the territory that they would take is twofold. One, it's not that rich, so to speak. Like there's not a lot of wealth in the territory that they would initially take from me, so they wouldn't be gaining a lot. And as opposed to other potential targets and options that they would have. So when you do the calculus, it's like I could go to war with the Klingons and gain little, or I could go against this other faction and gain more. So on that calculus, it makes sense to go potentially against the other. And generally speaking in the game, I think the Klingons have demonstrated a competency at being very good at fighting. Now, you might be losing a fight, but nonetheless very good at fighting and eventually coming out on top of those conflicts. The first Romulan War was a bit of a slugfest, but I would argue that the Klingons came out on top in that one based on where we drew the line. The Carnarvon, the first Carnarvon War, because it happened concurrently with the Romulan War, was a bit of sort of like pick your poison. You got to pick your fight. And so the Carnarvons were successful at that point. The execution of the sort of the revenge, shall we say, was very effectively done, as the Romulans are proving against me now. So it's very good. So would the Remans be able to do that against me, or would they be motivated to do that against me? I mean, they could. Like I said, they could. I just don't see the benefit to them in doing that, as opposed to looking at other factions on the map and choosing to, instead of the opportunities for resources and territorial strategic gain are more, they're greater with other sort of targets of opportunity than with the targets that they would have with the Klingons, just based on the positioning and everything else. For example, would the Remans want to take the Lyran pocket? Yeah, sure. Do the Lyrans think that they could go through various wormholes or make their way down that Gorn channel in the Balkans to try and attack the Gorn? Sure. I think those provide better strategic gain and overall EP gain than the territory they have with the Klingons. But who am I to know? One of the things that's great about this game is because so much of it can be personality driven, the personalities will determine that and drive that story element as well. So if you think about it from a historical context or even from role playing, there's lots of decisions that get made on the battlefield that don't rationally make sense, but they're driven by personalities and sort of internal motivations of those characters. And so, dying on a hill might not make any strategic sense, but it's an honor thing, or, the character is trying to prove a point, or, there's things there. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question because I cannot read the minds of everybody. But based on where we're at right now, I would say there is a greater chance that won't happen than it will happen, but there's always a chance. Oh, some missions I see. Bill saying, you violated our treaty. Sorry. So Bill is in the belief that I violated our treaty and chooses to ignore previous conversations that we had around what was happening. So Bill will continue and seemingly forever believe that I violated our treaty, and I will continue to believe that I did not. It doesn't matter. It's all fun. We're just we're tussling. That's what it is. Del, when the little blue bird, who has never said a word, starts to sing war. Yeah, okay. Eugene, can you show the Carney fleet in the Romulan-Carney wormhole? Space again. Was the Romulan R&D team there? No, the Romulan R&D team was not there, but let me, hold on, move this over here, but let me show you the screen. So up here you can see this is oh no, you're right. The Romulan R&D team is in that hex. I just didn't see it in the fleet boxes. So the R&D team is there. Whether they're going to swap it, I don't know. Maybe they will. So the Romulan R&D team is there. You can see Diamond and Home Fleet. There's a tug and a convoy. And then, of course, ships doing their thing. All right. Back on the attack. Really, Del? Tank Girl? You're quoting Tank Girl? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, another coffee has been fired by goatee-wearing evildoers. Let's wet the whistle, shall we? Hoorah! A little jolt of caffeinated goodness for those goatee-wearing evildoers. I swear, a little evil spa could do the galaxy a little good. Ooh, yeah. Cole Porter, sir, says our GM. Well, it's more Mahler, boy. I see, Bill says, see, I told you birds to do it. Bees do it. War. Okay. Carnivon. He's talking about the Carnivon. And then, of course, we got the fired of the evildoers. And then, hello, goatee. All right. All right, ladies and gents. Yeah, so like I say, we are in progress when it comes to a lot of the battles that are still going on. Once we have those battle results, and I'll tell you, I'll show you right here, right now. So, these two battles up here in the top, I can basically guarantee for you the Romulans are going to win those fights. There's one crippled D7 attacking 3 crippled ships and a YDK. And then this one, Romulan First Legion, is, as you can see here, King Eagle, Queen Eagle, so 5857, Scout, a total of 2 Snipe Bees and a Snipe versus Northwest Fleet, Klingon Northwest Fleet. So who do you think is going to win that fight? A tug, a wire tug, and a crippled E4M. Yep, I'm pretty sure I know where that's going to go. But the big ones are these two. We've got New Fleet fighting King Eagle. So let's pull up Klingon New Fleet so you can see what's there. So in this fleet, you've got a crippled King Eagle, a crippled War Eagle, 2 non-crippled King Eagles, and a Vulture versus a D7C, a F5C, a total of 3 F5s, 5 E4Ms, 2 crippled F5 F5Cs, and then there is a D4C and a prime team in that hex. So that little battle is going to go on. And why is that significant? Because it's over the planet of V, and assuming the Romulans choose not to fight and or retreat, that will affect their supply. Although, obviously, you can see they've got this tug here to potentially provide supply. Interesting to note, though, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Either they've got 5 supply, which is possible. They've either got 5 supply, or that's just outside their supply range, or maybe they're building a base here. Who knows? You can't daisy chain tugs in that way, but I'm going to guess and go out on a limb and say that they've got 5 supply, and maybe that's what's going on there. And then the other big battle is this one here between Home Red and, let's pull up Romulan 3rd Legion. So just to figure out who's in the zoo here, you've got a total of four King Eagles. Come on, be nice. 4 King Eagles, which are, 5/8 ships. That's good. You've got a Vulture, which is their dreadnought, command factor 10. A Pelican Eagle, which is a survey ship. I can't remember if it provides EW in combat. I'm going to say that it does. You've got a YFAL, which is a Mauler. So it's 7 attack. It can do up to 7 directed damage against a target. You've got a YFB, Y-Era Tug. Whoops. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Snipe Bees. So not an insignificant fleet. But you combine that with Home and Red Fleet, which are the Klingon fleets that are attacking it. So let's pull up Klingon Home Fleet. Put that there. And Red, was it Red Fleet? Is that the other one that's there? Yeah, Red Fleet. Klingon Red. Anytime you're ready. Boop. All right. So, and I think there's even more ships than this. Yeah, there's more ships than this in the... let me see here. So the total number of ships are in this hex. There is 1 TGAM. That you can see that here. There were some builds that weren't included in this. So there's a TGAM with 2 battle pods. The Tug, the TGA with battle pods is an 11 attack, 12 defense ship. You got 2 D7Cs, which are 9 attack, 9 defense each. 2 D6Ms, which are 7/7s. You've got 7 total F5Cs, which are these guys right here at 5/6. There's a total of 7 of those ships. You've got 6 F5Ms, which are these guys here. So maybe they're all there. Yeah, so there's 7 F5Cs, 6 F5Ms, 12 E4Ms, and a Scout. Versus the Romulans, Vulture M, 4 KEMs, a YFL, the Y Falcon, which is a Mauler, the Tug, which is the YFB, the Pelican Eagle, and 5 SNBs or Snipe Bs. And we'll see how that goes. So those 2 battles are quite sort of pivotal to see what ends up happening. And then, and there's a couple of other little things that, for example, there's a ship that's supposed to be taking Fledermaus here, and Battle Group Blood. So interesting thing about Battle Group Blood, the Romulans did something really smart. And I don't know how they distributed their ships, but there was a crippled Snipe B in this hex. And so he was blocking supply through the wormhole to and from the Balkans. Why is that important? Because the Balkans are a cash cow for the Klingons. And in order to be able to send ships back and forth there through supply, and of course, use the EP coming through from the Balkans, that wormhole needs to be open. And the Romulans did a really good job of sneaking something through there, and they put a ship on that hex, because I don't have a base on there because it's been moving around. And so that was really, really interesting. And as you can see here, he's got a couple other crippled ships taking resources, and then this Snipe over here. And while this Snipe technically would have been able to have supply from here with Battle Group Blood in that hex, it no longer has supply. It'll be out of supply, which means, like I was mentioning before, it can't cloak retreat away from a battle. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. But yeah, really interesting to see how this is all going to play out. Yeah, really, really interesting. Okay, so let's slide back to the chat. So I see Eugene's asking on the Commodore. So the Commodore is in the crippled D7C in the north that was isolated and is currently basically running for his life. It is very likely that the Commodore and that ship will be destroyed. The first of class of the D7C will be destroyed. It is my expectation that would be the case. And the Commodore may die in battle. The Alpha, on the other hand, is maybe he could be supplied by the Orions. Perhaps. Possibly. There's a whole sort of kit and caboodle going on there as far as what could happen. But I don't want to divulge any interesting storylines just yet. But as of right now, it is very possible that he could die any minute because of the crippled state of his ship and the sort of dynamics of what's going on in various battles. So we'll have to see how that goes. But the Alpha is currently, shall we say, engaged in escort duty, and is enabling a specific function for the Klingon Empire, and I think that's really good. When I'm able to, I'm going to get him back to the homeworld, and I'm going to sort of try and unplug him from the ship. But unfortunately, the Romulans have really thrown my plans for a loop and made things interesting and dynamic. So I'm just dealing with that as we go. Again, the Romulans have made a very interesting play of this whole thing, and it's nothing but good times. So with that all said, any other questions from you as to how this is going today? The battles are unfolding. We'll see how things go and what's going to happen next turn. I think at the very least, the next 4 turns are going to be very, very interesting. And I'll be very interested to see how this all goes down. It's going to be so crazy, so crazy. Anywho, I hope you guys have enjoyed today's live stream. I know we weren't revealing the entire turn because it's still in process. What do you think about the dynamics between these various conflicts? The Carnarvon versus the Gorn, the Romulan versus the Klingon versus the Gorn. Like, how is this all, painting out for you? How is it going? I feel like this is a really, really awesome and cool time in the game. I'm excited and enjoying it. What do you think? Do you want to see more, viciousness and bloodshed, or how do you want to see this go forward? Either way, hope you're enjoying the game. Hope you're enjoying these live streams. If you are, please, give us a thumbs up. Put some comments in the comment if you're watching this on the replay. Add some of your 2 cents to let us know what it is you like about this game. What is it you don't like about this game? What do you think the Klingons or the Romulans should do? How is this all going to go? And so on and so forth. But share us your opinions, positive or negative. I want to hear them. And let's see you in our next live stream. Maybe next week, maybe before. We'll have to see. Hit that bell notification, and then we'll let you know. It'll let you know when we go live next. So anyways, ciao for now, everybody. And I will see you at the latest next week. Ciao for now.